All right, Martin Popoff here, back with another edition of Reliving Old Reviews as a Useless Tool of Confusion. Today we're going to look at an old review of a brand new band out on the scene in the UK. They're called AC/DC. Perhaps you've heard of them. High Voltage is the album we're going to see a review of here. And I haven't read this. I go in cold with these, but I suspect, and I'm seeing it as Atlantic. So this will be the new version of High Voltage, not the very crappy Australian version of it. But this is the compilation, the first introduction of AC/DC in North America and in the UK. And we are going to be reading a short review. I won't be keeping you long here. From Melody Maker, July 3rd, 1976 by M.O. They just put initials here for the writers of these reviews. So let's see what the world thought of hearing AC/DC for the first time. This could be interesting. So here we go. Any new band that opens its first album with a song that goes, "It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll," is asking for trouble. And it's particularly apposite in the case of AC/DC, whose musical development is still at the raw stage. Interesting. I don't consider this album raw at all. This album is just very soberly and professionally put together. The production is good as well. And it's nice about this. It's a long way to the top if you want a rock and roll kind of idea, right? Like they're dreaming that they're going to get to the top. They're still a good 4 years away from it at this point. But it is a nice sentiment, and it's cool to hear on here, and it's kind of a naive song, and it's kind of neat that way, right? Okay, so not that there's anything wrong with punk rock, of course, but if Lenny Kaye of the Patti Smith Band, an acknowledged expert on these matters, can claim that his group aren't punk because they don't have a Farfisa organ, then there's no reason for AC/DC's lack of originality to be lauded. So this brings up a point. Punk is already about 6 months old on July 3rd, 1976. This is one of those famous things where AC/DC is somewhat considered part of the punk rock thing early on, because it's just very confusing. Where do we put these guys? Because even punk rock has roots back to Chuck Berry, old time rock and roll, somewhat. And AC/DC, this is very simple music. The name of the band sounds sort of punky, AC/DC. And I like this thing that, you can't be punk rock if you don't have Farfisa organ in your sound. It's pretty bizarre. And it's cool pointing out that Lenny Kaye is a expert on these matters. I mean, these matters don't even exist yet. Punk rock really picks up in 77 when we get all the albums. So we're at a very nascent stage of punk rock. There's no expert on the matters yet, because punk rock barely exists at this point. There's no albums other than 76 gives us a Ramones album, and that's about it. But apparently High Voltage is one of the first punk rock albums of all time, so they think. Okay. Their main fault lies in the instrumentals. It's the same old boogie, the same old sub-metal riffs you've heard 1,000 times before. So it is based on old boogie rock, but we haven't heard metal riffs 1,000 times before. And this isn't sub-metal. It's proto-metal, pre-metal, I suppose. Maybe that's kind of what they mean. But there's just not that much hard rock and heavy metal in the world. So it chafes on me when I read these reviews, reviews even of Judas Priest albums that, we've heard all this before. It's like, no, you haven't. I mean, the Judas Priest is absolutely brand new. So anyways, too many of their songs sound the same. Kind of true. Still, there's hope. The lyrics have a brashness and lack of sophistication that's always useful in the heavy branch of rock. Best of all is the suitably labored punning and innuendo in The Jack, a song which only the naive will think is about cards. This track is evidence that AC/DC, said to be Australia's most popular hard rock band, have some potential. But then so did fellow Aussies Daddy Cool, arguably the best rock and roll revival band around, and long before most everybody else got in on the act. And what happened to them? So it's kind of interesting. They bring up Daddy Cool and rock and roll revival. I remember Sha Na Na being big and stuff. So around this time, there was American Graffiti as well. There were rock and roll medleys on live albums. There was a little bit of a rock and roll revival kind of thing going on, and you could almost just as validly as putting AC/DC in this punk rock thing, you could almost validly put them in the rock and roll revival camp. Because pub rock in Australia kind of was that. It had a lot of rock and roll revival to it. Daddy Cool's even much more extreme in this, but it's interesting. I've never really thought of them as a rock and roll revival act, but they kind of were. They kind of were on those first couple of albums, at least until you get to Let There Be Rock kind of thing. So there you go. There's a review of AC/DC High Voltage from back in 1976 in the UK music newspaper Melody Maker. Like, subscribe if you haven't done that yet. That all helps the channel out. And let us know in the comments what you think of this. I love reading the comments. Check out Grant's Rock Warehaus as well, our other associated channel here, and check out my audio podcast, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff, and of course at martinpopoff.com. You can get a bunch of my books, not everything. I'm not selling the AC/DC anymore, I don't think. But yeah, I've got the new Van Halen visual biography in softcover I haven't told anybody about yet. And of course, this Big Maiden Dio. We've got updated Whitesnake, Merciful Fate. Anyways, all of that is at martinpopoff.com. There you go. Go listen to some AC/DC.